You are the trainer.
Yes, sir.
Fantastic.
And
Where are the places you've been?
Dr. Vidya Jonalgodda also from our college earlier.
I know Vidya,
Yeah.
Aparna. There's also someone from Vijayawada.
Dr. Vijayalakshmi from Guntur College, I think.
Guntur College, ma'am.
Yeah.
Guntur College.
She's now a principal in some college.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. Sir, I have attended for the level 3 content writing workshop also, sir, organized in Pune.
Wow. Pune, okay.
Mm,
Yeah, we should continue that. We now want to revive. Some colleges have already started. Recently, Kochi, Delhi, they're all started. Part of the FDP, they are organizing these 3-day workshops. And then they're providing some peripheral support.
We are continuously implementing it in our practical classes, sir. At least we make sure that at least one practical per semester is converted into an RBPT this thing. So that, and we organized it in our college also, regional workshop. So most of the faculty also has attended. Neremati ma'am, with your permission, shall we take a college tour?
Yes, Aparna. Yes.
Jayalakshmi?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, please. Sir, some small glimpses of our college. Thank you so much, Jaya.
It's a very, very impressive campus. Very green.
Thank you, sir.
So many well equipped and well organized. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir. Sir, we have DBT Star College scheme running in our college, and
Oh,
we have
wow,
been doing it
congrats.
since. Yeah, thank you, sir.
Yeah, next week is the meeting, chairing the committee to select next lot of GBT Star colleges.
Oh.
You should start mentoring other colleges in your local areas.
Dr. Anuradha is our Star College coordinator.
Hello, yeah. So we are
Anuradha, you're
encouraging all
muted.
DBT Star colleges and to
Yeah,
mentor.
our college is chosen for mentoring colleges, sir, by DBT. We are supposed to do program in the month of November. The aspirational districts and other places, sir.
Yeah, very nice. Very nice. Okay, I'm ready. Whenever you
Narimati ma'am,
Yes,
shall we
Aparna.
start?
We'll
Yeah.
begin the program.
Yeah.
make the introduction really brief, please.
Okay, sir.
Let's get into it.
Good morning, everyone. I, Dr. Y. Aparna, Deputy IQSC Coordinator of BVC, welcome officiating Principal Mrs. B. Neremati, our esteemed Chief Guest and Speaker, Professor L. S. Shashidhara, and all the faculty members present to National Webinar on NEP 2020, Changing Role of Teachers, organized by Internal Quality Assurance Cell of Bhavans Vivekananda College. Now, may I request our officiating Principal, Mrs. B. Neremati, to address the gathering.
Thank you, Dr. Aparna. Respected Chief Guest, Dr. L.S. Shashidhara, Dean Research and Professor in Biology, Ashoka University, Haryana, heads of the departments of Bhavans Vivekananda College, faculty members, and delegates from across the country. Very good morning. I welcome all the members to the webinar on NEP 2020, Changing Roles of Teachers. First of all, I would like to thank Professor Shashidhara for having accepted our invitation and being here to enlighten all the faculty members. And we all know that the India is going to see the highest population of youth in the next 10 years. So providing high quality education opportunities is going to decide the future of the India. So NEP 2020 envisions exactly the same thing by providing opportunities for students of multiple entry and exit options, interdisciplinary approach in the program as well as in the institutions. And in that aspect, two of the states of the country have already implemented. Karnataka and Madhya Pradesh have already implemented NEP 2020, and many of the states are already in the process of implementing. Soon, the entire nation will be implementing NEP 2020. So when it comes to changes in the education system, the important and the members who have to be familiarized with the system are the teachers, and therefore UGC and also Ministry of Education have directed all the institutions to celebrate Shikshat Parv and organize lectures in order to enlighten the teachers with the changing roles of teachers. So in that aspect, in that front, IQAC of the college has taken a small initiative of organizing a webinar. So Dr. Shashidhara is here to enlighten us. And I am very, very confident that the faculty members will get insight of what NEP is, how the teachers have to prepare ourselves in order to face the new education policy 2020 recommended by the government of India. I wish all the delegates all the very best. Thank you once again, sir, for accepting our invitation and being here to enlighten our faculty members. Thank you.
Thank you so much, ma'am. I take honor and pride in introducing a vibrant and versatile person. Professor Shashidhara did his undergraduate and postgraduate studies at the University of Agricultural Sciences, Dharwad, India, and holds a PhD from the University of Cambridge, UK. He started his independent research career at the Center for Cellular and Molecular Biology, CCMB, Hyderabad, as a scientist and group leader, where he built a strong developmental biology group. Following that, he moved to IISER Pune and contributed to its growth since its inception. Professor Shashidhara has served as Vice President of Indian National Science Academy and Secretary General of International Union of Biological Sciences. He is currently the President of IUBS, the first Indian to be elected in its 100 years of glorious history. He has represented India in several delegations and international platforms. He is steering an international project on climate change education. Recently, he was invited to speak out climate change education at the High Level Political Forum 2019, HLPF 2019 at United Nations. For his contributions to basic and applied biology, Professor Shashidhara is recognized with CSIR Technology and SS Bhatnagar Prizes, J.C. Bose National Research Fellowship. He is a Fellow of Indian National Science Academy, National Academy of Sciences, India, and Indian Academy of Sciences. In 2018, Professor Shashidhara was elected as Associate Member of European Molecular Biology Organization, popularly called as EMBO, an international recognition for excellence in research in life sciences. Not only this, Professor Shashidhara has also served, he is serving as a chair, co-chair member of various apex committees of Government of India, science and technology organizations, particularly those dealing with education, basic applied translational research funding, innovation, policy, international relations, and outreach. He has developed and implemented several teachers training programs under the Pandit Madan Mohan Malviya National Mission on Teachers and Teaching. This is a scheme implemented by MHRD, which aims to infuse innovation in pedagogy, leading to better learning outcomes. He has facilitated training of more than 10,000 school and undergraduate teachers in adopting inquiry-based teaching methods. In addition, he has organized several alternate career workshops for scientists, particularly women scientists in science, journalism, science policy, administration, and management, that have benefited more than 300 scientists from across the country. There are many more awards and honors to his credit, which will be a long list to read out. And he has chaired n number of sessions, especially dealing with science and technology, DBT, and National Science and Technology, Management Information Systems, and so on. So with this brief introduction, we welcome Professor Shashidhara to address the gathering. Sir, over to you, sir. We are very proud to have you here, and we feel very privileged to have you here. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Aparna. And first, thank you very much to Bhavan's College, the principal, Iramati, and Aparna, and Anuradha, and others for inviting me to give this. Well, I don't want to call this as a talk. I would like to interact. Maybe I'll present for 20, 30 minutes some of the salient features of NEP 2020, and then we can interact more. So perhaps my first talk related to NEP 2020 after it was launched in 2020 during the severe lockdown because of this pandemic was to teachers of Hyderabad. Koti Women's College had organized one. So I'm happy to be here again, although it's online. Wish I will visit sometime your college later. Now, what I'll do is to sort of tell you a little bit the salient features of NEP 2020, but you have to give some historical perspective. Why NEP 2020 was conceived, new education policy, what was the need, and in the context of the changing world, right? So I'll sort of take you through very quickly a few slides, and then we'll have some interaction. Let me share my slides. Can you see my slides?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Now, I mean, first of all, greetings on the Teachers' Day or Teachers' Week, in India. But you have asked me to talk about changing role of teachers. In fact, there's really no change in the role of teachers in the last 2,000 to 3,000 years since the education started in the civilized world. But what is happening is the methods of teaching, methods of engagement with the students may change for two reasons. One is because of the requirement of the society with changing times. The second is because of the technology that's available in interacting with the students. So in a way, you need to change your methods of teaching and not necessarily change the role of teacher. Teachers are always mentors, educators, and they are the ones who the guiding the beacon for the next generation. So that way, teachers are teachers forever. Right? So let me. So as you all know, the education, when we talk about learning versus education, learning can happen in a variety of different ways. People can learn by imitation, by seeing others, by just simply looking at the sky. They can learn a little bit about the sky, or looking at the earth, they can learn a little bit about the earth or forest or wildlife. And languages, many kids learn without any formal education, right? Even adults can learn new languages without any formal education. But education, when we talk about whether it's the school level, undergraduate level, or postgraduate level, it's a systematic and deliberate transmission of knowledge, skills, and values from generation to generation. Now, knowledge, skills, values all change with time. With the better understanding of the knowledge, your values will change. Better understanding of knowledge, new technology will develop. So new skills need to be introduced in the education system. So in a way, everything changes with time. The knowledge base will change. Some of the fundamental knowledge may not change, but we add more information, more. We expand the knowledge base. Accordingly, our skills will change. Accordingly, our values will change. Right? Some basic fundamental values of humanity will not change. The values of the society will change with better understanding of the society itself. For example, we have better gender sensitivity in the modern world. We have better understanding of the socio-economic differences so that we can reduce the inequality and injustice in the society. Those values are being introduced again and again at every level of our education. Now, if you see from a historical perspective, you see there's what's called school education, then higher education, then research, and then of course application of knowledge for societal welfare and developing new technology for better societal welfare. And unfortunately, sometimes we also use technology for some people, not necessarily everybody, for criminal purposes. And also very largely, almost all countries also use technology for warfare. Some warfare are only defensive, warfare can be more offensive. And these are the problems of the society anyway we had to face. Now coming to education, originally the school education was thought to be to know what is already known and to learn social and numerical skills for children to encounter outside the family members. As you all know, most of the children in the first 3 to 4 years, they grow only with the family, with the parents and their siblings. And they start going outside on their own to face the society and other members of the society only when they grow up at a slightly later age. Before they are ready to go on their own, we need to provide them certain kind of education or certain kinds of social skills that requires numerical skills, language skills, and social skills. That's what they learn in the primary school. The secondary and the school is to know to some extent what is already known. That's how it was conceived earlier days, because knowledge was what is known was so limited. Perhaps someone's microphone is on. Okay. Thanks. Whereas the senior school is the time when you start looking at how to apply this knowledge for your professional work. It could be a farmer, it could be a business person, it could be a smith doing very different types of skilled work. So you can actually use the knowledge which is already known in for livelihood as well as for societal benefit. Higher education was introduced more recently because once the 15th, 16th century Renaissance in Europe, perhaps of course higher education somewhat precedes that one, but really started expanding with the European Renaissance, where people were talking about how to um, train people to produce new knowledge. And also more and more people were started producing knowledge which had to be verified and validated, because not everything that is said or written could be true. There could be misconceptions because the knowledge producers are also human beings, they could be biased. So it is important that before knowledge is considered as universal, global, and also uh, usable for societal applications, it is important that that knowledge needs to be verified and validated. That process need to be taught to the student. That was the purpose of higher education. In Indian Gurukul system, although it was mostly in the initial stage more like a school, somewhat at a later stage, they were introducing analytical skills in the education so that students will start critically looking at a piece of knowledge, whatever they observe, so that every observation, simply because we conceive with the help of our sensory organs, is not considered as true. And later, the 18th and 19th century onwards, research was introduced as part of the education system, because the the communication was much easier because of the Gutenberg revolution. The books were printed, images were printed, and information was exchanged widely and across the globe. At that time, globe was mostly Europe and Asia. North and South America was not so much involved in any of these things. But research was considered to be important for furthering the knowledge as well as developing new technology for societal benefits for the expanding population. Then the knowledge was divided into two parts, what's called fundamental knowledge and application of knowledge. Application knowledge is nothing but the technology. In the context of science, we call as science versus technology. Science is something we know about our world. It could be natural world or the human world using scientific methods. Whereas technology is something which you develop not necessarily without knowing the science behind the technology. As you know, many skills that we had, warfare skills, or for example, wheel was invented, very different types of cooking methods were invented without knowing the chemistry or physics of what you're doing. Only modern days we can explain the science behind those technology. But with a better understanding of the scientific principles, your technology can actually have can be improved, and also new technology can be developed. For example, all kinds of defense technologies that was developed since the First World War in the last 100 years was all using scientific principles, whether Newtonian mechanics and others. At the same time, the modern communications, particularly mobile phones, are all invention because of better understanding of the physics and the mathematics. So that's the what's called applied knowledge. So there is fundamental and applied, right? You can always have kind of a dichotomy, but very integrated. Nowadays, it's well connected to each other. But globally, there also another problem started with industrialization, because we needed thousands and thousands of people to work in large industries and also associated governance system. The government itself had to engage thousands of people because the governance became more and more complicated with expanding population in every country. So the higher education became a factory mode generation of graduates, and skills were more important than the way knowledge is produced or how the knowledge is verified. You simply use the textbook and tell them some basic principles, and then you sort of memorize those principles, and then you tell them how to apply these skills. It could be engineering, medicine, accountancy, bureaucracy, all kinds of domains of the society. But this basically led to dichotomy of research and education at particularly in the higher education. Research was only confined to a few people, only a few students, because of a variety of historical or family background, or because of some, chance factor. They got interested in research and they moved to research. Not necessarily because they had the research competency. There are people who had very good research competency, were very bright, but they didn't have an opportunity. They didn't get exposed to how to do research, but they continued to be in one of the other domains in the society, contributing their own, you know, whatever the skills they have learned. But they could have been more productive if they had an opportunity to do research. But this dichotomy led to all kinds of new problems across the world, and more so in India. Now, this is what Indian scenario. Indian scenario pre-independence, I'll not talk about much, because the education, however good or bad it was very, very small component in the society. Very few colleges, very few universities, a very small number of people used to go for college education, hardly 1 to 2% of the people. But since independence, we have expanded our school and higher education extremely rapidly. And this rapid expansion also separated higher education, and there's no continuity from school to higher education. We introduced intermediate education called 11th and 12th standard, which is supposed to be a bridge between school and higher education. But our 11th and 12th also became somewhat like 9th and 10th standards, which led to some kind of a separation of school education and higher education. So students were not prepared to analyze the knowledge or critically look at a piece of knowledge in the school, in the higher school, particularly in the higher grades. So when they come to higher education, they come as like a school kids. And our higher education also, because of that rapid expansion of higher education, we introduced affiliated colleges in the university system, centralized syllabi, centralized examination, and centralized textbooks, which also became, higher education is just simply became another version of the school education, which led to rote learning. But we also separated very specialized school education, higher education, like engineering, medicine, agriculture, were all separated. They were not connected to the regular education program. So the students who are doing BA, BCom, BSc were not interacting with students who are doing BTech or MBBS or BSc in agriculture because of separation of these campuses. So in a way, even general education like science education was not connected to engineering, medicine, or agriculture because they were all separated in space. So this next level, it also happened was a rapid affiliated version of the college education versus university education. There is a separation of undergraduate and postgraduate. If you look at some of the top universities anywhere in the world, UG and PG is done in the same campus. So students interact with each other, junior students and senior students. In India, we have mostly undergraduate colleges, and post-graduation is done in the university campuses. Some undergraduate colleges and post-graduation, they also conduct postgraduate education. So some more they are combined, but they are very few in number. Very few universities have started undergraduate program. Some central universities do, but they're still again minimum. The Hyderabad Central University has started about 10 years ago, undergraduate program in sciences and social sciences. But there are very 200 students compared to thousands of students in postgraduate education. And of course, dichotomy of research and teaching because of all these reasons that I already mentioned. Most importantly, you also lost autonomy in higher education because of this affiliation. And the reasons were very clear, because we wanted to produce thousands of graduates for building the nation. We wanted a quick solution to education. But that, because the teachers are supposed to follow a centralized syllabus, use the same textbook, all the colleges affiliated to university, perhaps for the entire country. And syllabi are also many times very common across the country. And because students write an examination which is not designed by the teachers who teach in the classroom, students' attention was more towards the centralized examination. So there was basically, read in the last 1 month of the, in the year or the semester, prepare for the examination, which is basically very centralized. And the centralized examination, another problem is because hundreds of college students would be writing the same examination. To make sure that there is a parity in the evaluation, all the questions were derived from the textbook, and nothing really very critical thinking kind of questions were introduced in the examination. which is mostly memory-based answers one has to give to the questions. That also means the students no need to be attentive in the classroom, and teachers' role as a teacher impart knowledge in a very critical way was also given less importance, right? So these are the kind of problems that we are facing in the Indian education scenario. But nevertheless, for for a number of good reasons, India did very well in the last 75. I mean, this is 70 years because of the World Bank statistics, but now the 75 years, now we are the fifth largest economy in the world. And India has done extremely well given where we were, in 1947 in terms of our economy. However, we have not done enough because our per capita GDP is very, very low considering the population size. We still need to do a very long way. We cannot simply compare ourselves with few small countries and saying that we are better than them. But those small countries have so many times population which is smaller than the Hyderabad population. So you cannot compare ourselves with such small countries and be happy. So, but nevertheless, the reason we did reasonably well, given our situation in 1947, absolutely no industries, no major economic activity. There was no, the literacy was very, very low. Number of graduates in specialized skills like engineering, medicine were also very, very few in number. Is because of the skills they developed in higher education, and I started applying that in solving real life problem, particularly the food security and the better healthcare. India is one of the rather the only country which can give reasonably good healthcare across the whole country of 1.5 billion people. India is also one of the countries where you can get highest quality healthcare for those who can afford in India, but that affordability of Indian healthcare is much, much cheaper compared to anywhere in the world. That's why there is what's called medical tourism in this country. But our IT, industry and pharma industry has, and of course, space research is globally well known. It is contributing the whole globe. Indian engineers are providing IT solutions to the entire world. Our pharma industries are pharmaceutical products for the entire world, and Hyderabad is the capital for the whole country in pharma industry. Our space research has done, not only space exploration, and more importantly for societal application, launching the satellites, not only for India and for other countries. Now, this I've already is a remarkable achievement what we have. But coming to NEP now, why we wanted NEP? Because since 1991, when we liberalized our economy, India is changing really, really fast. But 1990 is also beginning of internet. That digital world also making the whole world changing very, very fast. And as you all know, it's a very simple logic. A world with change fast is also becomes unpredictable. Can you prepare your students for 2030, not knowing what would be there for them in 2030? Would there be jobs, the kind of jobs that are present today would be there, or the kind of skills they use in their jobs today, the same skills will be useful, or some new skills need to be imparted to them? If you don't know what kind of skills needed in 2030 or 2035, how will you even impart those skills here? Even those skills may not be even existing today. So how will their teacher, right? For example, could teachers of 1990s, early 90s, taught artificial intelligence and machine learning to our engineering student, or how to use digital methods of learning, because those skills never even existed in as early as in early 90s. So given the uncertainties, given the unknown features of the world, see, the future is always somewhat unknown, but we make certain prediction based on what we know today and what we have today, right? Because everybody has an aspiration to live and prosper. So obviously there is certain levels of predictability for the future in the human world particularly. But that future is becoming more unpredictable because of the societal dynamics. Second is unpredictability is also because of the climate change. Look at the kind of floods that we had in Bombay, in Hyderabad, and now in Bangalore this year because of the unprecedented rainfalls. At the same time, this year itself, when we see heavy rainfalls in southern part of India, in the entire northern belt is experiencing almost like a drought-like a situation. Right now, that's going to affect the economy a lot in the coming months. So, as you can see, many things that is planned may not work because of this difference. And also, tomorrow's world, one of the goals and vision which is there for entire all nations, particularly so in India, is to make the development sustainable. In the last 30 years of development is unsustainable. As you can see here, our urban planning is so unsustainable in every city in this country. And also we have not done enough to make the development equitable. Although we are the fifth largest economy, the poorest of the poor live in India. And they're a very large number. There are people without house, without 2 meals a day. It's not a good situation to live, particularly when we can see them every day on the street, on the television, everywhere. Right? It's it's something which we need to fix. So tomorrow's world, both unpredictable. There is already a clear target to make the world sustainable and equitable. Now, for this to happen, our students simply can't learn what we have learned long ago and teach them yesterday's knowledge and yesterday's skills to the students of tomorrow, right? So this is where we need to change the way we teach, to our students. Now, the most important skills our students should have is not really how much they know in physics or in chemistry or in biology or in economics or in anthropology or archaeology, right? What they need to have is certain kind of skills, irrespective of what knowledge they need to use, what knowledge they need to learn more. The new knowledge is being produced every day in large scale in every field of human endeavor. And also application knowledge for solving the societal problem. They may also learn afresh because the problem may be new in their location, right? Or wherever they live, or wherever they want to apply their knowledge to solve the problem. So in a way, these are the skills we need to impart to our students, right? These skills we can impart using their textbook, the same textbook. Textbook will become only a tool, right? Learning Newtonian mechanics or the atomic theory or or genetics or evolution could be only a way or a tool to learn some of these skills, right? So your teaching methods need to be changed to impart these skills, not necessarily what is the syllabus. It is not really doesn't matter what is in the syllabus. It's the method of teaching we need to change so the students learn and acquire these kind of skills. And of course, sustainability skills are most critical for future. So it's very important that all campuses become sustainable campuses so that sustainability skills are learned by doing, by action, in a way, by practicing sustainability in doing their learning. So all campuses should be sustainable campuses so that you can provide sustainability skills not only in the classroom and also outside the classroom as part of very different activities in the campus. Now, one thing you need to understand is, while knowledge is global, right? The fundamental knowledge is the same across the globe. Doesn't matter which part of the world you live, but your problems are local. Even the global problems can have a local manifestations, like climate change. This year we have a drought in the north and extremely heavy rainfall in the south. Both is cause of the same global problem, that's a climate change, right? So because the problems are manifested locally differently in each locality, it's very important that your students learn how to apply knowledge to solve the problems by using local examples, right? For example, the students of Bhavan's Vivekananda College in Hyderabad should understand what are the local problems in their locality, in their own, and then try to apply the knowledge they learn in the classroom to solve those problems. This way, they will learn the necessary skills of what's called innovation. Innovation is use of knowledge appropriately to solve real life problems, right? And that innovation skills are very important in the future of. And NEP was introduced primarily to take India beyond this current period. The first 30 years of first, let's say 1947 to 1991, about 45 years, is more to build the nation, to build the capability to have food security, better health care, and also improve our industries. And 1991 onwards, transferring the capability to the private sector so that more and more industries will come out, and better infrastructure need to be provided for industrial development in the country. So airports, roads, everything happening since 1991. And as India entered into 21st century with the rest of the world, the Knowledge Commission was established early in 2000 to integrate research and education, like ISAs were introduced, and then RBPT's kind of training was provided because you were teaching method in integrate research and learning from the textbook and so forth. And but still, it was not enough considering the problem of climate change, considering the rapid expansion of this country, and it was important that we need to bring in a new education policy. Now, whenever we talk about the policy, we need to look at individual aspirations versus societal demands. Every individual will have her own or his own aspirations to lead a particular way of life, particular kind of livelihood, particular kind of living style, right? And as a democratic country, we cannot stop those aspirations. We need to facilitate those aspirations as long as they follow moral guidelines of how to make money and how to live without affecting the nature and the other people, without snatching the opportunities of other people. It's fine. Let them be, rich and prosperous. Those aspirations should be fulfilled, and that's our societal, duty. At the same time, society also has a demand. For example, there's huge amount of inequality. There's going to be a problem of climate change is going to affect everybody. But so society also need to ensure that there are certain kinds of large scale demand which are met. So NEP has to manage or balance both individual aspirations and societal demand. By the way, in the morning, the mayors mentioned that NEP was introduced by the government. Actually, NEP's government is only a machinery to introduce. It is the societal requirement that we needed a new education policy, and in a way, it is a societal demand that we need to change our education system. But at the same time, without losing the focus on individuals. Every human being is different. Every individual human being has to be given, sufficient opportunity for their future, and at the same time meet the societal demand. So I don't want to go through the all the features, which I'm sure most of, and many are already being discussed at very different levels, right? So there are a few things which are highlighted here. One is, other than the inclusivity, equitability, I will come to that later. One is learner-centered pedagogy, right? Because you as a teacher, we need to focus on that aspect. And you also need to impart the skills which I already discussed at length: problem solving and critical thinking skills, self-learning ability, and so forth. Values, of course, is always important: ethics, empathy, resilience, rationality, scientific temper, sensitivity to environment, because our way we have degraded our environment in the rapid growth that we followed in the last 30, 40 years is, unthinkable, and we cannot have the same kind of a situation in coming decades. So sensitive environment is very, very important. Now, here is where the teacher's role, right? Now, you are still central to education. You are central to educational reform, right? Teachers is very important. Now, you want to make that, rather than making teachers secondary to education, because on the current system, someone else writes the syllabi, someone else writes the textbook, someone else prepares the examination question paper, and someone else will, sort of mark the answer sheets. So there, the teacher, I mean, everybody is a teacher who conducts, who writes the syllabi, or who writes the textbook, or who can, drafts the question paper or evaluates the answer sheets. Everybody is a teacher, but that teacher is the student-teacher interaction that happens in the classroom. The teacher, that teacher and that student interaction is not connected with all these. That makes the teacher-student interaction less enthusiastic and less engaging. But what NEP wants to do is to make that engagement more enthusiastic, and so that teachers are more motivated and engaged. Even students also become more enthusiastic to learn, and they will be better engaged in the classroom with the faculty. And we need to expand our teachers base, considering that we are expanding our higher education. I'll come to that in a minute. It's good. Largest job market in currently and also for future would be teachers' job. It is not, in railways and not in military, not in clerical job or IAS job, kind of all the entire government, the administration related job, not lawyers, not IT professionals. It is going to be the teachers. And teachers are basically self-facilitators. We should not make teachers that you sort of push through the student through all the knowledge that you have learned from the textbook. It really doesn't matter how much they learn from the textbook, but they need to learn their critical thinking. I think someone's microphone is on.
Sridhar, sir.
I think the meeting administrator also can mute some microphone which may be on.
I think Jayalakshmi can mute all participants.
Except mine.
Yeah, yes, sir. You're the host, sir.
Sorry, ma'am.
So this is what is written in NEP. How to implement all of these things. One of the things they have suggested is curriculum should be liberal arts curriculum. This, of course, you don't have to worry because the teachers will be participating in designing the curriculum, and you also have to be part of the teaching in a liberal arts one. Liberal arts is liberal arts program means the art of liberating the mind. Many people think that liberal arts means art education like BA or BCom kind of education. Liberal arts is not that. It's the art of liberalizing the mind. How do you liberalizing the mind? Basically, you need to look at the foundational knowledge in a very critical way. That's why you have to introduce what called foundation courses, and they are now introducing the 4-year undergraduate program so that there is sufficient time to go through a liberal arts curriculum. Because 3-year is more like an honors. You don't have enough time to learn, for example, the philosophy of the field, history of your field, and critically looking at how the society has evolved. What is the, learning about Indian civilization or something about music, something about art, all based on the interest of the students, right? That, scope of learning or going through that kind of education requires 4 years, and thankfully 4-year degree program is now approved. Many universities are slowly introducing that one from this year on. So those who are teaching science, it's also important that you teach science in a liberal art. Now, finally, it doesn't matter what you learn. The science has told us about the world which is beyond human beings, whether it's the chemical world, physical world, astrophysical, astronomical, or aspect of the universe, right? But still, what is learned, what is known, is because of human creativity and critical thinking, right? Galileo would not have been, used only his sensory perception to show that it is the Earth which moves around the sun, right? It requires certain kinds of ingenuity. It also requires to find out certain illogical way if you believe in a particular way. Same if you think that evolution is not true, right? Then there are a lot of illogical features of the life on Earth, right? But if we put everything in the context of the evolution, everything becomes right. That learning logic is part of the liberal arts education, right? It's important to teach science in a very different way. This is what the students or teachers need to learn how to teach scientific topics. I'll skip this, keep repeating about liberal arts education. Now, one of the things you need to teach, because as I told you, the end goal of education is not how much physics or chemistry or how much the biology may know. It's what important is to learn those skills I mentioned, right? For that, you need to integrate with research. The research and teaching should be seamlessly integrated. Teachers should do research and use research methods in their teaching. Students also learn by doing small projects. That the learning itself may be through projects. Not necessarily every chapter should be taught by a teacher in the classroom. For example, you can say, you learn some aspect of Newtonian mechanics. Your home, lift water or do this, do that, and tell us that what you learned in physics or even learn in mathematics. Same thing with biology, same thing with chemistry too, right? And of course, encourage summer projects and internship. An internship could be in your own college, or students can go elsewhere for summer projects. Now, what is research? See, if you look at the way many of you have done research, right? You normally ask the question. Based on the prior knowledge, you build an hypothesis. This is the answer to your question, but it's only an hypothesis. It's only a speculation. Then you have to validate that hypothesis. Then you define certain objective. Okay, this hypothesis, if I had to validate or to identify or discover something new to prove or disprove my hypothesis, I may have to have certain objective. You split the question into 2-3 different modules. That's what you are. Now, design and perform experiments or make some new observations. Not everything has to be through. Then you collect and then analyze the data. If the data supports, then you have hypothesis true. If data supports against null hypothesis, that means your hypothesis. And you, of course, use statistical and very, very quantitative methods to make sure that what you observed, what you experimentally generated, that data is reliable. Now, you need to train your students in these research methodologies. Now, do this. It also develops certain other new skills which are really important for today's world: honesty, integrity, ethics, and values. Because you cannot make an hypothesis and try to test your own hypothesis unless you are honest about it. Because every hypothesis is only a speculation until it's proven otherwise, right? So you have conducted in a very unbiased way. That unbiasedness comes only when you are honest to yourself, right? You cannot, simply copy some old experiments or date or kind of stuff. So honesty and integrity, ethics, these values of the society you automatically gain if you are a good researcher. Now, so this method of can be, some of your teachers are really experts in research-based tools or pedagogical methods, where you actually follow the same way as the knowledge is produced while teaching a piece of from the text. So in a way, you ask the student to go through. It's basically an experiment conducted, a thought experiment kind of one, which is conducted. Sometimes they can use props, sometimes they can do small, and so that they do, simulate an experiment in the classroom, and they learn by sort of most like conducting a research project. And it's very important. I already mentioned some of these things, and very important that students are involved in open discussion and debates. And that's what you need to introduce this. Now, every teacher will generally ask, it requires a lot of time and you will not be able to finish the syllabus. And my answer to all of these things is, once students learn how to critically look at something, most of the topics in the textbook they can learn on their own. You can also introduce what's called digital pedagogy. In the digital pedagogy, one advantage is you can ask the students, come back to the classroom tomorrow after reading this part of the textbook or read something about this on internet, you provide the right reliable source on the internet, because not everything on the internet is. You also ask them to watch video of some fantastic science or any speaker or good teacher anywhere in the world, and come back with this. So your job in the classroom is actually to discuss a particular topic with the students. Students should have already had some prior exposure to that. That way you can reduce the time that you spend to teaching yourself from a textbook, but you engage more with the students in discussions and debates. And another one you'll have a new role to play in all of you is with NEP fully introduced, almost every college will become autonomous. Every teacher will become autonomous. It's not enough if college becomes autonomous. Teachers themselves should become autonomous. They are the ones. College will develop a curriculum. Individual teachers write their own syllabi. They conduct, they teach and also conduct examination. Once we know how to assess learning outcomes or teaching outcomes, you also will know how to teach better so that your student will do better. For example, you say, this is the kind of question I'm going to ask end of the semester or end of the year. And to ensure that the students write in a very critical and innovative way those answers, you will also start teaching in a very different way. One advantage of decentralizing the examination is you can also now ask questions which are of critical thinking type rather than MCQ type, which is a memory based one. Because examination is centralized, where 100,000, lakhs of students write the same examination conducted by Osmania University or Kakatiya University. So what will happen is the examination is set up in such a way that everybody will write exactly the same answer. It's easy for giving the marks, right? But that will go away when decentralized the examination, because you can ask some very critical questions. And because you are going to ask these questions, you will teach in a very different way so that your students will develop those skills, right? So this is a major change in our education system once NEP is fully implemented. The last 2 minutes, most important aspect of our education policy is also prepare ourselves for expanding. As you all know, perhaps we are now over 27%. It was 26% in 2017-18. Because of the pandemic, we don't know how many people actually ended up in higher education. But if you redo this, it may be either 26 or 27% of the students who are eligible for enrollment to higher education are actually coming for higher education. The world average is 30%. China is close to 40%. And most developed world, it is 60 to 70%. If India has to reach 30%, which is global one, or at least 40% like in China, considering our population size, there's going to be a huge expansion of our higher education. Now, we cannot simply have only 30, 40 students in the classroom. Each one of us may have to teach 100 to 150 students in a classroom. Second is, we may have to use more digital and online resources for teaching. Otherwise, we'll not be able to provide quality education to such large number of students. Of course, there will be teachers training is extremely important. We're going now with thousands of new colleges, and large number of hundreds of new universities, and more teachers will be recruited, and those teachers need to be trained in the way the future of education is demanding the methods of teaching. Exactly what I mentioned as per the NEP 2020. And one other factor that will come when we start expanding, which already all of you must be experiencing in your classroom, is many of your students will be first generation learners. They come from different language background because of mixing of populations, because of rapid migration and urbanization. Hyderabad will have almost every language of India spoken in a large city. And many of your students, their primary mother tongue could be not Telugu or English, it could be something else. So how will you ensure that they learn effectively in your classroom if they don't know the right language, right? So one is there will be huge diversity in your classroom because of socioeconomic factors. Many of them could be first generation learners. They come from different cultural background. They may come from different geoclimatic zones. They may come from the gender diversity, language diversity, religious diversity, and which instead of using the word religion, I would rather use cultural diversity. Now, if all of these people are involved, you have to make sure that your method of teaching is very inclusive in the classroom. So if you use same pedagogical method all the time, only some students will be attentive in the classroom. They will not show interest in learning something. But if you use 3 or 4 different methods of teaching in the first month of your semester, right? And at least one method of teaching would be appealing to a particular section of the student. So with 4 or 5 methods of teaching, you will ensure that all students in your classroom show interest in learning something, engaging in the classroom. Now, once they're engaged, once they're attentive, when they start liking the teachers, they continue to show interest, continue to put more efforts, even if you don't use the same pedagogical method in which they show interest. It could be games, it could be discussion, it could be debates, it could be assignments, it could be group learning, it could be activity-based learning, simulations, online learning. Doesn't matter what method you use. You introduce multiple different methods so that every student will show interest in learning whatever you're teaching in zoology or botany or chemistry. Once they start showing interest, subsequent months they continue to show interest, even if you cannot afford using so many different methods of teaching. So you focus on 1 or 2 methods of teaching in which you're very familiar and very comfortable. So that's one way of making it very inclusive. Of course, your campus itself is the role of principals and the management. That your campus also should be inclusive, should have sufficient facilities for from toilets to for all kinds of language learning abilities and so forth, right? Because otherwise they'll be left behind. So maybe they need bridge courses in mathematics or bridge courses in languages, particularly English, to many of your students. Now, it's also important that your students themselves will also become teachers. One is as 2 reasons. One is we need to prepare next generation teachers, and the teachers are required in very large number. As I told you, it's going to be the largest job market in the country, right? And we are not only providing educated people given our demography, not only to India, to the rest of the world. So, and also you all know that many times students learn better through peer interaction. So you can take some of the meritorious students who also may need some financial because of poor social and economic background. You are encourage them to become TA. In fact, NEP suggests that every college and university keeps aside some funding to provide TA-ship to meritorious students. So, for example, a 3rd year or 4th year student can be part of teaching the 1st and 2nd year, not necessarily classroom teaching, more like they can run their own discussion groups, tutorials for 1st generation learners, particularly if they are non-English speaking students. That peer learning is more effective because many times students are very shy to say that I don't know enough English or I don't know how to learn mathematics. Whereas easy for them to openly and frankly discuss with their own peer group, other students, maybe 1 or 2 years senior, right? So that helps. So NEP has introduced this mode of learning, students to student learning or peer learning as part of the policy. I'll stop here. Thank you. Sorry, I maybe too long, I thought. So maybe we can have some time for questions. I'm here for another 15-20 minutes. Here.
Thank you so much, sir, for enlightening us on so many aspects, and especially this last part is much more impressive. That is like TA-ship for meritorious students. I think that is one of the best part that can be implemented. And sir, I have one question, because this is the general thing that we keep asking in we keep discussing in our college. So our college is a mixture of all the different streams like BA, BCom, MBA, sciences and other things. When we speak about RBPT tools, so the question always comes is, there is an RBPT program sort of a thing conducted for science teachers. Is there any such thing conducted for management, commerce and arts faculty?
Yeah. So, Aparna, you yourself can conduct such RBPTs for others also. For example, RBPT is nothing but how do you learn something? The way we discover something or we understand piece of knowledge. For example, if you want
రెగ్యులర్ చేయలేదు, ఎక్కువ పే చేస్తలేదు, ఆయన
archaeology.
పెట్టలేదు. అంటే రెగ్యులర్ చేయలేదు, ఎక్కువ పే చేయలేదు.
Can you switch off?
Yes, sir.
Someone?
Kalim, mute yourself.
Yeah. So what I'm saying is, let's say, take the example of history, right? You want to learn something about some historical aspect of 12th century in India, right? So how a historian would look at it? A historian will perceive what is available. It could be in the form of text, it could be a rock edict, or it could be something in a temple inscription. Something could be through, folk lores, something has happened in 12th century. Not everything is reliable, because sometimes the kings or the queens would get something inscribed on a temple or on a rock, just to show off. They have the power, and they may get something inscribed. How do you know it's reliable? There are multiple ways, and historian would try to get the veracity of the what something is written. So when you teach in the classroom a 12th century history of India, a particular region in Hyderabad, let's say, if you want to talk about something in Kakatiya dynasty, a historian would learn in a particular way, discover something way. When a teacher would teach the same thing, they can use this research. So in a way, research-based pedagogical methods is not discipline specific. It is across all disciplines, in social science, humanities, as well as natural science. You can teach Shakespeare using the same method. It doesn't have to be anything related to science. It's simply that our mandate by the MHRD and that you train science teachers. They gave a mandate to teach social science, humanities teachers to some other place. So we were not involved. And ISER as a institution was mostly science institution. So we only focus on science. But RBPTs are discipline agnostic.
Thank you, sir. This is the most common question that we are being asked. So we have
in my
some
new
questions.
avatar, I'm part of the Ashoka University, which is a liberal arts university. I every day talk to historians, archaeologists. In fact, as a dean of research, I had to facilitate their research also. I'm happy to organize an RBPT on history or archaeology to some of the teachers.
Thank you so much, sir. You be our mentor, and we will do that magics here. Sir, we have some questions. Chaudhary sir can unmute and you can ask.
Thank you, Shishir sir, for the lecture.
I can't hear you, Dr. Chaudhary. Voice is very low. Meanwhile, someone else.
Am I audible?
Hello? Hello?
Speak a bit loudly.
Am I audible, Aparna?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. You are audible now.
Sir, thank you very much for that lecture which we given to us. Sir, I have a question regarding the outcome-based learning. Sir, we have a syllabus designed and we want to produce an outcome, or based on outcome, should we change our syllabus? Because I'm teaching physics and my syllabus is a core syllabus, which is generally designed to go for PG and then subsequently to do research. So if I start teaching, and should I aim at getting an outcome based on my syllabus, or is it I redesign my syllabus to get a good outcome? That is where outcome in the sense should it be giving any students to market as other subjects do? Because my subject is not a market related, they cannot immediately go to a job. So should I inculcate some topics which will make them to outcome based?
Okay, understood. So quickly, there is a requirement to tweak the syllabus in a particular course. That's true. But more importantly, you set the outcome and change the pedagogical method. See, as you all know, in a classroom of 100 students, maybe only 4 or 5 would be interested to do research. While maybe more than 30% may go for higher postgraduate education, masters. Only a small number will end up doing PhD. But trying to teach in a way that everybody has, only the future PhD student will benefit, you would be doing injustice to remaining 95 students who may take up any kind of other type of jobs in the society. So they will not learn anything from your course if it is your pedagogical method aimed at promoting research, career. What is important is learning and application of knowledge. For example, you say this is the some concepts in physics. This can be used for water management. This concept can be used for electric mobility or reducing the pollution, right? And then it doesn't matter whether they remember the specific fundamental concept of physics. What they'll learn is how to read something and use that knowledge to apply real life problem. Tomorrow, let's say that person becomes an IAS officer or a state government, some official. They will never remember in their life that I learned this method of problem solving. Tomorrow, if they had to solve water problem in the district or a taluka where they work, they will go to the physics textbook or some online source for physics information and try to solve the problem in a more effectively. So I think you need to change the pedagogical method rather than the syllabus. But to some extent, syllabus also need to be changed because our syllabus is overloaded. Just because in last 10 years, we have discovered so much in physics, doesn't mean that everything should be part of the textbook.
Thank you, sir. What do you have?
Anuradha ma'am?
Yes, sir. Thank you, sir, for enlightening us on this topic, NEP. Undoubtedly, this NEP 2020 is path-breaking document. As a teacher, we are getting prepared towards the change. The thing is, I have one question in my mind. The emphasis is on multidisciplinary aspect. So I don't think it is giving a wrong this idea about dispensing the pure sciences. Is it, sir?
Yeah.
We are not dispensing with the pure sciences.
Okay. I'll tell you, there are
subjects,
practical issues.
rather sciences. Yeah.
I totally agree with you. I think there's also some practical aspect how to introduce interdisciplinarity, multidisciplinarity. I think, again, this is where most teachers or most educators get confused. One is we all come from discipline-specific education background, right? You may have studied physics or biology, it doesn't matter. It's unlikely that you would have done, double major or major minor in physics and biology or kind of a thing. Some people have done it. Even if you have done that way, it's not enough to develop interdisciplinarity, right? So idea is not to convert every teacher into an interdisciplinary teacher.
So we're not able to hear you.
Sir, you are muted.
Oh, keep talking for so long.
No, sir, just a minute ago.
Oh, I see. So what I'm saying is every teacher doesn't have to become interdisciplinary teacher. It's impossible. Second is you continue to teach the subject of your, what you've been teaching. Only thing is you change the pedagogical method to meet the new requirement of the learning outcome that I've been discussing. The way interdisciplinarity can be introduced is you can introduce some new courses because you are a 4-year degree course where two teachers can come together. For example, physics teacher, a philosophy teacher come together to teach history and philosophy of physics, or simply the differences between Newtonian mechanics and Einstein's, or Newton's physics and Einstein physics. There are a lot of philosophies involved, right? So the two teachers can come together and teach that course, right? And in a multidisciplinary course. Second is the projects. You can take a project, the campus itself, how to make your campus water completely recycled. Here, you may have to bring chemistry teacher, biology teacher, physics teachers, and other teachers also come together and work together and tell the student how to do it, because they have to look at the organisms in the water and see whether the water is of poor quality or what is there. They have to test that one. Chemistry people have to test the chemical component in the water. The physics people have to look at the fluid dynamics of the flow to ensure that there is sufficient oxidation happens so the water gets completely purified and so forth. So through activities, you can promote interdisciplinarity amongst the students, right? Most important also the future is interdisciplinarity comes only when they do teamwork. So someone would be master in biology, someone will be master in physics, but they understand each other's languages, which many times we lack. For example, I talk to physicists explaining what I do in biology. It may be difficult for a physicist to understand because I cannot explain it which a physicist can. But your new future student should develop those language abilities. At the same time, still continue to have a depth in one particular discipline. But without depth, you can't solve the problem or do new research. So finally, it's important that discipline-specific depth is also equally important. At the same time, gain some breadth by learning the languages of other disciplines.
Sir, thank you, sir. I have another question. Because this to implement, is there any mentoring mechanisms or a mentoring mission which has been started by MHRD or any national level centers, or we
There are,
has to be?
for example, this talk that you are arranging is also part of that kind of an activity. But finally, as you can see, more and more autonomy is given to the colleges. I think you should use more your own teachers as mentors. Each one of you will have some ability, some interesting skills, and collectively use everybody's skills and abilities. You already can implement every aspect of NEP without even having an external mentor, right? Some may be good in RBPT, some may be good in digital pedagogy, some may be good in in some kind of an interdisciplinary way of running a project, and so that students. Some may be good in running debates for students, discussion group with students, or games, right? So you amongst yourself use all your talent pool and come out with your own NEP.
Yes.
Well, now NEP in a sense implementation strategy.
Yes, sir.
Don't depend on the website. We can always call people from locally in Hyderabad or call people from Pune or Delhi, Bangalore, doesn't matter. These days with online, you don't have to spend money for all of it.
Yes. Thank you,
Thank
sir.
you, sir. Bhaskar, sir.
Yes, ma'am. Good morning, sir.
Yes, morning.
Thank you so much, sir, for your enlightening us on the NGP 2020. There are a lot of inputs you have given to improve our skills in teaching the students. Sir, my question is, generally we follow the syllabus teaching to the students for UG or PT students. Is it to be continued or any modifications? Already you told several changes to be followed. We will follow that one. Any special significance we have other than teaching the syllabus?
No, I already mentioned this when Dr. Chaudhary asked the question. So the two things you can see currently, your compulsion to complete the syllabus comes because examination is conducted externally by some a university level agency examination center. So if you don't complete the syllabus, it's an injustice to your students because they would be writing an examination where teachers of other colleges may have completed the syllabus. So that's what problem has been so far. And the syllabus itself is top down, right? It is coming from the university. It is not, or UGC. You are not party to writing the syllabus. But under NEP, with more decentralization, more autonomy to colleges, there is scope for you to write your own syllabus. Certain topics which is you think is not going to be useful by the students immediately, they can learn on their own later using better methods. But there will be very good online course to learn very complicated subject in physics like string theory. Why do you need to struggle to teach string theory yourself or quantum, electrodynamics or quantum field theory kind of topics? Instead, you teach the fundamentals of quantum physics and stop at that point and tell them there are some new areas which are coming up. Those who are interested can learn from such online courses, right? But because you write your own question, design your own evaluation method, you also know how much syllabus you need to complete given, because it's also important, ethically and morally. If you give a syllabus and give an outline of the syllabus, it's important that you complete that, even if evaluation is done by yourself. You can't simply say 3-4 today my syllabus is done. Whatever is considered as not part of the syllabus, it's not correct. As a teacher, once the beginning of the semester we circulate a particular syllabus, it's our duty to complete that syllabus. But you can reduce based on your own.
not supporting అందుకోసమే మీరు దానికి పోండి అని అంటారు, డౌన్లోడ్ అని అంటారు, మళ్ళీ రీడౌన్లోడ్ చేయమంటారు.
Yeah. So in that context, it's important that there is a scope for you to change the syllabus, modify the syllabus, and you teach according to the syllabus. But pedagogical methods are more important than the syllabus.
Okay, sir. Thank you, sir. Sir, whatever the ideas you have given, we will adopt into the syllabus teaching, and it helps us a lot to mold the students towards the citizens of the country. Thank you, sir. Thank you so much.
Even if a syllabus, even if with autonomy is, takes time because they may not do everything overnight. Even if you have to use centralized syllabus, there is scope for pedagogical, innovations where you can ask student to learn certain fields from other online courses. On free online course, you cannot make them compulsory. There are also online courses in different languages. They can learn something in Telugu itself, some courses, and then come back in the classroom and have one round of discussion so that they are not unduly disadvantages. So they'll be in a better. So first round is pedagogical innovation, then the examination change, and then the syllabus change, then the examination change. I think that's how decentralization will happen eventually.
Thank you, sir. I think Dr. Padmaja, madam, you have raised your hand. Did you raise your hand, Dr. Padmaja, ma'am? You would like to ask any question? Sir, meanwhile, I have one more question.
Okay.
NEP is also encouraging blended learning. But post-COVID, we have seen, that means after online teaching, we have seen that many students' retention capacity and focusing capacity has lost. And to bring back to them to normalcy has become a tough task to a teacher. And really, I feel that every teacher is undergoing this problem, because to bring back that focus, to bring back that attention, everything has become a big thing. Now in blended learning, won't we see any such, because NEP also focuses on blended learning processes. So will that be maintained, or won't it have any impact on these things? Please kindly.
Before I answer, what is your understanding of blended learning? What do you mean by blended learning?
Blended learning can be both online and offline. It can be. Is it not so? Not so? So please kindly enlighten us.
So that's blended learning. That's what I mean. It is being used only during this pandemic, because there is a online course versus offline. Some can be combined also, hybrid model they say sometimes.
Yeah, hybrid model.
Right, but that's not blended. Right, if the same teacher, same pedagogical method, whether you come on the screen or whether you are standing in front of them in the classroom, it's the same. That's really not blended. Blended learning is using different pedagogical methods, which I kept telling you.
Okay.
Right, in the classroom, so that different chapters may be taught slightly differently using different pedagogical methods. For the same chapter, maybe 2-3 different pedagogical methods, so that all the students will gain, all the students will show some. See, not every student, because you also have to understand, most of them are first generation learners. Even if they are not first generation learners, they're coming to the college. And if you teach a particular topic in a particular way, let's say only 20% of students understand and show interest, remaining 80% will not be attentive. If they're not attentive for 2 to 3 consecutive classes, they will remain unattentive for the rest of the semester, right?
Yes.
So by suddenly waking them up is important. Let's say let them sleep for first class, doesn't matter, because you use a particular pedagogical method. In the second class, when you use a different methods, another 20% of the student will benefit. The first 20% will continue to show interest because they've already shown some attention to your class, right? So that way, in 2 to 3 classes, you can cover the entire class. That's what more inclusive pedagogical method is. What blended. Blended means use blend different methods.
Okay. Okay, so it also includes like so because we see in the internet, Google, and other thing, when we try to learn something, our perceptions might be wrong.
No,
so,
one aspect of blended learning also includes some online courses, not necessarily by you, but someone else.
Okay.
Right, but if you are the same person coming in front of the classroom, if let's say 10% of the students, are not showing interest, they continue to sleep. They continue to sleep. Well, it's easier for them to sleep when you are online rather than person in the class. That's not blend. You can use, for example, you can ask them to go through a video of, famous. What do you teach, physics or biology? What do you teach?
Microbiology.
Microbiology. So, for example, you can ask them to, let's say, watch a video of Richard Dawkins and come back to the classroom and tell you about microbiology, evolution, and phylogenetic relationship. So they will show more interest. That's also blended.
Okay. So thank you, Anuradha ma'am.
Sir, I have one last question, sir. Sir, in our country, 50 to 60% education is going in private sectors. Faculty and students, we are already into this program. What are the suggestions that you give for the management, not for the government institutions, but for the private institutions?
Yeah, so I'm also now associated with a private university, which is true. In fact, most rules, regulations, and also the government funding, is all how to run a government institution, and they're trying to impose sometimes the same thing to the private education, which is wrong because the management are different. We are not using the benefits of the management for private education. So like Air India is now completely made private because its government cannot manage such a airlines, and hopefully it will improve. It has happened in many times whatever we have privatized. So government should not get into managing everything. Now, there is always a good management practices in the private sector, which is different from the government one, but more effective in private because you are focusing on your college. But when the government UGC has, focuses on the entire education system, and UGC method of management is not practical, for the whole country. That's why autonomy, decentralization is required, whether it is government or private. Now, coming to the management in a private one is thing is, there are two aspects: sustainability of the education program, because there is no government funding, right? You are dependent on the students, and showing the learning outcomes of your students, showing how they have performed well, your alumni, is how you attract new students. And depending on your performance, you can also set your fees and improve the infrastructure. So by aligning with NEP, it's actually beneficial to private management. Very quickly, they can actually improve the quality of the education outcome, and that they can attract more and more good students to your sections. But most importantly, don't only look at the fee-giving students. Be more inclusive, because the aspirations to do extremely well is more among the lower socioeconomic strata, right? 20 to 30% of your student come from, with financial aid or with subsidized fees and everything. They are the ones who are going to do well. They are going to be your best alumni. They are the ones who are going to build the brand name for your, management, right? So, and the fee-giving student alone will not be able to build the brand. If you look at the best of the university everywhere, Harvard, MIT, Stanford, their fees are also pretty high for those who can afford fees, but very number of students, they are on financial aid. The brand is being built. For example, some of the best alumni of Harvard, MIT, or Stanford could be someone from Africa, someone could be India, someone could be, and all learned by financial aid. For example, Ashoka model, where I am now associated now, is nearly 40% of the students are one or other financial aid. 25% of the students are full financial aid. Right? Not only the complete fees are waived, they also get an additional stipend for day-to-day expenses. Right? One advantage of this, there is also no socio-economic, or at least economic inequality on campus. Right? And also we ensure that other students will not come to know who is on financial aid, who is actually fee-giving student, unless they themselves will talk to each other. Right? So I think there are multiple management can look into this. Any field in letter and spirit. Maybe ask this question to your principal.
Thanks.
Sir, I have a question. Sir, I have a question, sir.
Yeah,
sir, we are
go.
talking about cutting down the dropout rate of the students. But with multiple exit, can we not anticipate more students dropping out from the degree program? Say, for example, if we have a 3-year degree program, if student is getting a certificate after 1 year or diploma after 2 years, supposing a student is financially very weak and momentarily he is getting some opportunity, some small job opportunity, he has the option of leaving the degree program and taking up the job. So in such a scenario, are we not anticipating more dropout rate? And is that not going to impact the institution? Because when an institution is admitting, for example, 50 students into a program, it has to provide resources. It could be physical resource or human resource. It caters to 50 students. But by the end of 2 years or 3 years, if the students are going to be lesser in number, is that not going to impact the institutions, sir? How are we going to handle such a situation?
Yeah, I understand. But that's what we are talking about individual aspirations versus societal demand. Right? Now, it seems the dropouts are a variety of different reasons, right? One is simply they think that they can learn physics, but they realize that they cannot learn physics. But if they don't have the option of dropping out, they will be stuck for 3 years. Either they leave the college without anything, without any certificate, nothing, and then go, and back to 12th grade level and do some job. Or they may lose 1 or 2 years and go to some other college and instead of biophysics, they may learn biology or chemistry. The second, the problem is the dropout will happen is because they think that this particular college I'm not getting anything because teachers are all teaching everything in a particular method of teaching, and I'm not very familiar with this, or I'm not good in English, I can't learn English so quickly and kind of stuff. So that's another reason for dropout. So in a way, and this you also have to realize that most dropouts, it's very difficult for them to go to a better place than yours. So once they are already dropout, invariably they have to end up in a substandard place than your own place, right? So in a way, you are not, you have an opportunity to retain them by changing your pedagogical method, by giving an option, because that's also part of the NEP that a student can change the major after 1 year. Rather than signing in the first year as BSc, let's say zoology, and end up continuously learn zoology even if not interested, they have the option to change their discipline. To an extent that you can even change from sciences to social humanities or vice versa, right? So with this kind of opportunity, it's unlikely that student will drop out. Your dropout will come down to some extent. And if more and more students have the option of dropout with 1 or 2 year degree, there will be who is going to take them? Student going to another place is always the same competition. Everybody is trying to improve their teaching method and giving flexibility of changing their discipline, based on their real interest, rather than because of some other compulsion they have picked up particular major. So with all these new intruding changes, it's unlikely that student will drop out. But in an unlikely situation where they need to be dropped out, at least they would have taken a 1 year or 2 year, having studied 1 or 2 years some certificate, which will be useful for their livelihood. So it's a good system, but it should be properly balanced. It should be implemented in right spirit. And students should know what is the implication of dropping out, how they can actually continue to be in the same place and get maximum out of it, rather than simply coming out after 1 or 2 years.
Thank you, sir.
Okay.
Dr. Suvachla.
Thank you, sir.
Sir, can we go ahead for another 5 to 10 minutes? Few questions are there.
Yeah, maybe about 5 minutes. Yeah, 2-3 more questions.
Okay, sir. Suvachla.
A very, very good morning, sir. Thank you so much for the brilliant session. I have a question with respect to the slow.
Sorry, I can't hear you, Doctor.
Now,
Very, very, very mild. I'm sorry, low voice. You have to speak really loudly in front of the microphone.
Sir, meanwhile, we can take another question. Kamala ma'am. Kamala ma'am. Okay.
Sir, is it audible now? I'm Dr. Suvachla.
Yeah. Now it's very well.
Sir, question, sir, with respect to the slow learners, sir, especially advanced learners, slow learners, we have the diverse students in our classes. So can you kindly suggest few methods to help them out in terms of, because we have a very limited crunch of time, but we have advanced learners, we have also the slow learners. So what kind of an approach we can really go about?
So first thing is you should identify them very quickly. Is important other than halfway through. So many times you learn that someone is a slow learner or advanced learner only when you conduct a midterm exam or something. But sometimes it will be too late, right? Or only the final examination, right? So it's important that you identify them quickly. See, for example, when you introduce more interactive pedagogical methods, you know quickly who is a slow learner or a advanced learner. And that basically, once you identify them quickly, then you can do some different pedagogical method for them, or connect fast learner to slow learners, let them learn from each other, students, right? So you can fix the problem very quickly if you know the problem early enough.
Okay. Thank you so much.
Sir, one question from the chat box.
1 minute, Padma.
Is it okay, ma'am?
Go ahead.
Am I audible?
There is one, Kamala.
Yeah.
Sir,
Am I audible now? Sir, am I audible?
Who is speaking now?
Yeah, I'm Kamala. Yes, sir.
Okay, go ahead. Ask your question.
Yes, sir. Yeah. This is with regards to the internships and the projects which are a part of NEP. I just wanted to ask, does this become mandatory for NEP that the last 6 months have to be internships or projects?
No, dear. No. It's not going to be mandatory. It's an opportunity, and also internship doesn't have to be outside the college. It can be within the college. They can do internship with one of the teachers, either learning, let's say they can do a course online, or they can do some simulations online. There's some experiential learning. Anything can be part of the internship, but that's mostly based on the students' interest and their abilities. It's not necessarily mandatory. For example, some universities already made, even in a 3-year degree program, a project-based learning as mandatory. They have to do some small projects. They may do some survey. They may go and visit some institution and spend 1 week, learn something, and write a report on that one. So there are multiple different ways this internship can be organized.
Sir, one last question from Mrs. Parveen Khan. She posted it in a chat box. Self-sufficient in production made us believe customer is king, and we molded our selling techniques to suit them. And now we are trying to say student is the king. We are trying to mold ourselves to suit them rather than molding them to become more marketable. Please comment on this.
Well, it's not really true that we are doing that way. We are not looking at students as kings. Students are the carriers of the nation from this generation to the next generation. We are preparing the student for their next generation based on what the world would be like, what the country wants to be like, right? We are not molding them. We are molding them in a particular way, which is important for the society. So it's not like, the student is a king and we just simply deliver some education as a goods or a material to the student. It's not true that what you're saying. What we are trying to do is the students need to understand the society better. Students need to solve the real life problems more effectively. Students need to bring in sustainability to the whole nation and living and in development. Students should reduce the inequity in the society, injustice in the society. We are preparing them to do all of these. So it is not that we simply asking because some student wants to become an engineer and tomorrow he wants to earn $5 million a month. We are not preparing simply because they are giving some fees to us. Not even IITs, not even private engineering colleges, not even MIT, Harvard would do that, anything like that. Nowhere in the world that concept of student. It's actually a misconception that we are treating education where education is like as if something we are selling to the students. Okay.
Yeah, thank you, sir. Now I request Dr. K. Suvachla Rani, Coordinator for Teaching Learning Center of Bhavans Vivekananda College, to propose vote of thanks. Over to you, Suvachla.
Thank you so much. Am I audible, please? Yeah. Good morning to everyone present. I, Dr. K. Suvachla, a great honor.
Swarchala, your voice is very feeble. Can you be a little louder?
What happened?
Is it audible now, ma'am, please? Yeah, thank you.
Yes, Swarchala.
Yeah, thanks a lot. So I, Dr. K. Swarchala, deem it a great pleasure and honor to propose vote of thanks at this national webinar on NEP 2020, Changing Role of Teachers, organized by Internal Quality Assurance Cell under Shikshak Par 2022. I express my deep sense of gratitude to our respected Air Commodore Jailan Shastri Garu, Vice Chairman BVB Sainikpuri Kendra, for his blessings and support for the conduct of this national webinar. I would like to express my profound gratitude to our officiating principal and IQAC coordinator, Mrs. B. Niremati, for her continuous motivation, support, and guidance in the conduct of the webinar. I take this opportunity to express my sincere gratitude to the brilliant chief guest and speaker for this session, Professor L.S. Shashidhar Garu, Dean, Research and Professor of Biology, Ashoka University, Haryana. And I would like to sincerely thank Dr. K. Anuradha, Head Department of Microbiology and Research Coordinator, BBC, for the constant support in the conduct of the program. I profoundly thank Dr. Y. Aparna, Deputy IQAC Coordinator, for the wonderful coordination in the conduct of the webinar. A special thanks to all the heads of the department for their unflinching support for the conduct of the event. An event of this dimension cannot happen overnight. The wheels started rolling in advance. I would sincerely thank Mrs. Jayalakshmi, Assistant Professor, Department of Computer Science, and Mrs. Lakshmi, Assistant Professor, Department of Languages, for their contribution to the webinar. Our heartfelt thanks to the wonderful participants for their active involvement, engagement, and participation in this webinar on NEP 2020, Changing Role of the Teacher. Thank you so much, everyone. Have a great day.
So one last, we'll have a group photo. Jayalakshmi, please take a group photo.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, done.
Done, sir. We request
Okay,
all the
thank you.
participants to fill the feedback form posted.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so
Thank you
much.
so much, sir.
Bye, everybody.
Thank you,
Sir,
sir.
thank you,
We
sir.
would like to see you in the campus, sir. We will invite you and we'll have a lecture by you in continuation.
Sure. Happy to.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir. Have a good day,
Thank
sir.
you.
So the attendance form we request all the faculty members to kindly fill the attendance form. It has a small activity. Time duration given is 5 minutes. It's a thematic perception test. The image is given based on NEP. So we request faculty members to kindly write few words on the image. And the participants, the best top 3 participants will be awarded a certificate. That is best participation certificate in terms of the winners. So kindly do the needful, please. 5 minutes, the link will be open and then you can fill the form. Thank you. So it's a thematic perception test. A theme is given based on the concepts sir spoke about today. You have to connect the theme with the concept and then write few words. And then the top 3 winners would be awarded as winner certificates would be provided to them. Thank you.
This is for outsiders.
Outsiders.
So everybody can participate.
Ma'am, everybody can participate. Yes, ma'am.
Next OB, Sridevi madam. Next Saturday. Saturday పెడుతుంది. Saturday. Or the next week. ఎందుకంటే మన
Excuse me, ma'am. Where do we find this attendance sheet and the activity link, please?
Chat box.
Not able to see in the chat box. That's why I'm asking.
Okay, 1 minute. Jayalakshmi?
Yes, ma'am, I'm reposting it, ma'am.
Yeah, it's come thrice actually.
I'm doing it again, ma'am. I have given, ma'am.
Both are one and the same, right, Jayalakshmi?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Sorry, but I'm not able to find in the chat box here actually.
Are you using the phone, ma'am?
Yes, ma'am.
That could be the reason why the chat box is not. Are you able to enable the chat box?
Yeah, I actually have posted that message also in the chat box. It's something like it's shown like B. Okay, 1 second. It's showing to BCom 1A1.
Ma'am, good morning, ma'am. Could you please rejoin,
Okay.
and check the chat box, ma'am, so that you can see the link.
Right. I'll do that.
Thank you, Sunanda, ma'am.
Yeah.
Ma'am, there is nothing coming in the chat box.
Ma'am, reposted the link, attendance link.
Aparna ma'am, I have reposted it. Can we share in group? So,
Yes, ma'am. So can I share it in the group, ma'am? Jayalakshmi, ma'am?
Aparna ma'am, should be. I have shared in the chat box 2-3 times.
Yes, ma'am. We just got it now.
Okay, ma'am. Okay, ma'am. Thank you.
Chair, ma'am.
Yes, Lakshmi ma'am.
Ma'am, Aparna ma'am is asking us to post the link in the group, BBC, NEP group.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. I'll do it, ma'am.
Okay, ma'am. Thank you. Request everyone, those who are not able to access the chat box can see the link and fill the attendance sheet. Thank you. Dr. Aparna, can we leave the...
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. That's what I'm going to announce just now, because majority of the people have accessed the sheet, and for those outsiders, outside college people, maybe a few of them are not able to access. We have posted it in the WhatsApp group. So thank you one and all, and thank you for participating and making this webinar a grand success. Thank
Now
you.
they could access.
Thank you, Aparna. Thank you for organizing it.
Thank you so much, ma'am. Those who are done can leave. If you are not able to access it, please kindly check in the group.
Ma'am, once they refresh, they are able to.
Okay, okay, Jaya. If they are done with their group, feedback form or attendance sheet, they can leave. Jaya,
Yes, ma'am.
let us keep it open for another 3 to 5 minutes and then end the session.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Thank
Yes,
you one
ma'am.
and all once again. Have a nice day.
Apna ma'am, can we close? 27 are there. Meeting.